Yeah, I don't think Mother knew about this.
Uncle Marvin was strangled by his own beard.
Yeah, you never saw it coming. And welcome to America's Family History Show, Extreme Genes and ExtremeGenes.com. My name is Fisher. I am your radio root sleuth on the program where we shake your family tree and watch the nuts fall out. And this episode is brought to you by BYU TV's Relative Race on Sunday nights, 8 o'clock Eastern, 5 o'clock Pacific. And what a show we have for you today. We got Dr. Henry Louis Gates, host of PBS's hit series, Finding Your Roots. And we're going to do two segments with Dr. Gates, not only talking about the show, but also about a program he got going to introduce young people to genealogy and the science of it, charting your ancestors and the research. And I'm really looking forward to that conversation. Later on in the show, we're going to talk to Team Blue from Relative Race as they've just completed episode 3. So we'll find out what some of their feelings are through the series thus far. Hey, don't forget to sign up for our weekly Genie newsletter. It's absolutely free. You can sign up at ExtremeGenes.com or on our Facebook page. And join our Patrons Club if you'd like to support the show. We give you bonus podcasts. We give you other great benefits. Check it out through ExtremeGenes.com. And right now it's time to head out to Boston for David Allen Lambert, the Chief Genealogist of the New England Historic Genealogical Society and AmericanAncestors.org. Hello, David.
Hey, how are you, kiddo?
I am good. I had another score on eBay this past week.
Yeah. Let me guess, a Honus Wagner baseball card.
No. This is a family thing. I actually found a postcard from 1908 from Tottenville, Staten Island in New York, and it had a photo of the restaurant/hotel of my great-granduncle Nelson Waldron, which is a really rare version of the name Waldron, and you can actually see the name on the sign outside of the house. It's really incredible. Got it for like $16, but it's in perfect condition. It was really fun to get. Even my wife was impressed with this one.
Well, that's really good. And it sounds like it didn't break the bank, or either postcards are pretty reasonable occasionally.
Yeah, pretty much so. Well, let's get on with our Family Histoire news today. Where do you want to start?
I'm going to start with the weather, actually. You know, back in the 1500s, English speakers began referring to the seasons as sort of a description, like the fall of the leaf or the spring of the leaf.
Yeah.
Well, they kind of shortened it to fall and spring, and that's where we get that from.
Yeah, and you know, the English only use autumn now, and apparently we Americans are the only ones who use autumn or fall interchangeably. I didn't know that.
And, of course, like many of our words from England, you get a French origin. I believe autumn comes from automne, I think.
Oh, you speak such beautiful French there, David. Very nice. By the way, you can read this story at ExtremeGenes.com. We link to it right there.
That's always a fun thing to do. That gives me the reading material on my commute. Well, this person was commuting with a 16th century book in their backpack. That's what an American hitchhiker had when a couple from England picked him up, and they noticed this old book in his bag and asked how much he wanted for it. Well, they returned it to the church in Lyndhurst, England, and it dates back to 1532 with baptisms and marriages, and the church is kind of puzzled where it came from because it's not in recent history that it's been lost.
They didn't even know it existed then.
They probably thought they just had lost records. So you just never know. Picking up a hitchhiker might give you a genealogical treasure.
Now, this started in the 1500s, and then how far forward did it come?
Right into the 1700s. So 1532, right until the time of, say, the American Revolutionary War.
That is going to be very important for somebody coming up in the not-too-distant future once this gets digitized.
Next on Family Histoire News is a story of a baby that was abandoned in an Atlanta hotel right around the time of World War II. And the headline in the newspaper basically said he was mothered by local nurses. So he really didn't know his origins until recently. In fact, it was DNA that revealed to Richard Cole his true parentage, which is something that keeps on coming up. It's an amazing technology that we have. It's not just showing us our ancestors, but in some cases giving parentage back to people who never knew them.
Isn't that amazing? That's called a foundling, of course, when somebody's abandoned, where you have no clue of anything. And identity of parents and birth families of foundlings are being found all the time now through DNA.
So our next story, which you can also find on extremegenes.com, deals with another disappearance. Well, this time was back in 1912. The Dunbar family out of Louisiana went on a family camping vacation to kind of escape the heat and went down to the bayou. And the problem with that is they're alligators. And that's the fate they thought their young son met. And back in 1912, there was a search, there's a reward. A man came forward and was with a child that kind of met the description. But when that child's mother came forward, a Mrs. Anderson, claiming that was her child, she was ridiculed and basically said she was a liar. And the child was given to the Dunbars. But was it really the Dunbars' child?
Yeah, and this is where DNA, of course, has come in because the child's son is still with us, Bobby Jr., and it turns out he doesn't match his own family. So what's interesting about this, David, is that in the story they talk about, he doesn't match the family, so he must be the other person. But they make no mention in the story about DNA testing him against the descendants of this woman who claimed he was her child.
And that would be the logical thing to do.
Yes, exactly. But it could also be that the writer of the story wasn't aware of that detail, or he just made the assumption, or maybe that's just what they did. They said, well, he doesn't match here. He must be this other guy who went by the name of Bruce Anderson. So it seems likely that Bobby Dunbar Sr. actually did meet a fate that night in the bayou with an alligator.
That's a shame. Again, more work needs to be done on this before drawing a conclusion. Well, that's it for Family Histoire News. If you want to visit AmericanAncestors.org and curious about what goes on at NEHGS in Boston, we would be honored to have you join as a guest member. But if you decide you like it, you can use the coupon code EXTREME and save $20 on your membership with AmericanAncestors.org.
All right. Thank you, David. And, of course, you're going to be back later on at the back end of the show as we do another Ask Us Anything segment, and we will talk to you then.
All righty.
All right, and coming up next, he is the host of the popular PBS genealogy show, Finding Your Roots. Dr. Henry Louis Gates is coming up for 2 segments, starting in 3 minutes on Extreme Genes, America's Family History Show. Well, Genies, another episode of BYU TV's Relative Race is in the books, episode 3 from season 6. And this has been a very emotional season because somebody on every team that's racing for that $50,000, that's meeting all the new family, they are looking for birth parents and birth relatives. And this week was no exception. Anitra from Team Blue met a cousin who gave her important details about her origins and why she was given up for adoption, what the intention was, what went wrong. It was a very emotional scene, and you will want to see it. And they're going all over the country: Tuscaloosa, Alabama, Salem, Virginia, Greensboro, North Carolina, Colby, Kansas. If you missed it, of course, you can stream it at byutv.org or by using the BYU TV app. But another episode is coming up Sunday night, 8 o'clock Eastern, 5 o'clock Pacific time. You're not going to want to miss it because everybody's talking about it. It's BYU TV's Relative Race. Hey, Genies, it is Fisher, and if you have ever struggled to put dates and locations and people and attach them somehow to scanned photos, you're going to love what I'm going to tell you about. It's called Memory Web. Yeah, it's the photo organizer that was built by family historians for family historians. For instance, you can preserve Grandma Sally's handwritten notes by linking the back of a photo to its front. You can see where Grandpa Joe traveled in his lifetime through an interactive world map. And you can selectively share with Aunt Betsy so she can identify people in that reunion photo from the 1940s without changing your tags. Yeah, you can send photos with all the details and share photos with tag details visible on your photo. That's just scratching the surface. Check out the photo app that family historians and genealogists are raving about and get 10% off an annual subscription when you sign up at memoryweb.me/extremegenes. Bring your digital archive alive with MemoryWeb.
Whether you're new to family history, a seasoned pro, or you simply miss the event in Salt Lake City, now is your chance to connect at Roots Tech London. That's right, the world's largest family history conference is expanding to London, October 24 through 26. Join us for 3 huge days of discovery and make connections to your past. Enjoy world-class entertainment, interactive booths, and hundreds of hands-on classes. Oh, and did I mention that world-famous entertainer Donny Osmond is one of the featured keynote speakers? Purchase your 3-day Roots Tech London pass today. Passes start at only £49. Learn the latest about DNA, explore recently released record sets, and interact with exciting technology. Join the excitement, join the fun, discover your family. Discover Roots Tech, October 24 through 26 at the XL London. Register today at rootstech.org/London.
And welcome back to Extreme Genes, America's family history show, and extremegenes.com. It is Fisher here, your radio root sleuth. And I first met my next guest just a year and a half ago at Roots Tech when he was one of the keynote speakers there. And I was one of the speakers in that same event, Dr. Henry Louis Gates. And he is a Alphonse Fletcher University professor, director of the Hutchins Center for African and African American Research at Harvard University, an Emmy Award-winning filmmaker, literary scholar, journalist, cultural critic, institution builder, 55 honorary degrees, Dr. Gates?
That must be a typo. What can I say?
Do you sleep? Do you ever sleep?
Like a baby. I'm a morning person, so I go to bed early. It must be genetic, right?
Wow. Yeah, you know what? You're right. I did morning radio for 30 years and then finally said, I can't do this anymore because I am genetically a night person. It was very tough on me.
And my wife is a Cuban citizen, has a green card. She's a Cuban historian. And she's just the opposite. She's nocturnal. And so we kind of put me to bed and work till about 2 or 3 a.m. in the archives.
I read that somebody called you the tour guide to the family histories of the stars. And I really love that description because you are exactly that. And we've got season 6 happening right now on PBS, and 2 new episodes happening this month, 8 new episodes in January, and then 6 new episodes in October of next year. Let's talk about the season.
Okay, that's great. First of all, I love that. That's such a compliment. I hadn't heard that before, being called the tour guide.
Yeah, it's perfect.
It's perfect. It's a great honor. I love, as you know, and as you can see from my Roots Tech presentation, I love doing genealogy, and I love the fact that genetics, tracing ancestry through genetics, has grown precisely with the history of finding your roots. And remember, when I started in 2005, it was called AfricanAmerican Lives because we just did African Americans. We did Oprah and Quincy Jones and Chris Tucker. And then we did a sequel because it was so popular. And it was African American Lives, too, with Morgan Freeman and Maya Angelou and Tina Turner. And when I got the idea, I thought the emotional high point of the series would be revealing to African American guests what ethnic group they were from in Africa. And I had a very simplistic notion about how ancestral DNA worked, but I understood mitochondrial DNA and Y DNA. So that's what the original pitch, when I was trying to raise the money for the series, was based on. How would you like your company associated with the whole world learning what quote-unquote tribe or ethnic group that Oprah Winfrey is descended from?
Sure.
But 2 things happened. One, when we were filming Oprah and we were doing her family tree, and by the way, I decided I'd do their family tree back to slavery. And then when the paper trail disappeared, we would take them back to Africa. And in fact, I actually traced Chris Tucker's Y DNA to an ethnic group in Angola. He and I flew to Luanda, the capital,
Incredible.
then took another long domestic flight and went back to the village where this ethnic group was based. It was very moving. But my first guest was Oprah, and we were filming it. She broke down and cried when she saw the name of her enslaved ancestors.
Yes.
The actual people on their family tree. And I realized that people would have an intellectual reaction knowing where they were from in Africa. Remember, autosomal DNA wasn't quote-unquote invented at that time.
It wasn't really.
There was no commercial company in 2005 giving you a $99 test, sharing your autosomal DNA and your DNA cousins, as it were. Well, in 2009, I got a letter from a lady of Russian Jewish descent, and she said, you have to expand this. What are you, a racist? Only doing black people. How about me? I'm of Russian Jewish heritage. So I cracked up. At first I thought, well, it's never going to work. I teach African and African-American studies. I'm a black man. This is what I do. And then I thought, why not? And so I talked to our sponsor, Coca-Cola. I talked to PBS, and they all said, let's go for it. So in 2009, we decided to do other ethnic groups. I said, well, I'll do it like Noah. 2 Catholics, 2 Jews, 2 Asians, 2 Jamaicans.
Right.
And that's what we did. But when we were at the Broad Institute, and I never heard the word autosomal,
right.
We were using them to check all our DNA results, but also to teach me. And so I needed a crash course in genetics. So these guys were teaching me, giving me things to read. They were really wonderful. And it just occurred to me, out of the blue, to ask them, is there any way that we could tell if any of the people employed in this building at the Broad Institute is related to each other, even if they don't know it?
Huh.
And their eyes lit up, and they said, yes, it's called autosomal DNA. And I said, well, tell me how it works. And they said, well, if you share long identical segments of DNA with another human being, it's not random. It will be because you share a recent common ancestor. So if you had an ideal family tree, you and that other person would share a common ancestor. And I said, okay. So we shared the DNA with Stephen Colbert and Mike Nichols, and Eva Longoria, Yo-Yo Ma, Malcolm Gladwell, Elizabeth Alexander, and all the other people who were in the series. And we shot this segment when we put their pictures up on a whiteboard at the Broad, and then David Altshuler and Mark rearranged them as DNA cousins. And the effect was electric, mind-blowing, that people were so excited that this almost secret ancestral relationship was hidden in plain sight, as it were.
Oh, wow.
In your genome.
Yeah.
And autosomal DNA revolutionized our TV series. And as you know, it's pivotal to adoptees finding their birth parents.
And foundlings.
Foundlings, and many, many other implications, including recent developments in cold case resolution. So it is so exciting. And whenever I'm interviewed, people always ask, okay, who are the DNA cousins? And they find that magic. For example, Angelica Houston
Yes.
will learn that she is 2.7% Jewish. So the flip side of the coin is your admixture, right? So that has enormous political implications. The fact that, say, for African Americans, the average African American is 24% European.
Mm-hmm.
That's amazing.
Yes.
That's 25% of your recent ancestors.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, I'm 50-50, which
Really?
is a total shock. The chairman of the Department of African and African American Studies at Harvard University with half a white man.
Well, and these discoveries, as people become more and more aware of that admixture, it's got to change the discussion, don't you think?
Absolutely. I was about to tell you about Angelica Houston. She's 2.7% Ashkenazi Jewish ancestry. And she is DNA cousins with Bernie Sanders and Larry David.
Oh, wow.
And that's marvelous. But the subliminal political messages of finding your roots, and I think these are two of the three reasons that it's so popular. One, that we're all immigrants. Even my African-American enslaved ancestors came here in chains, but they came here from Africa, so they were unwilling immigrants, but even they are immigrants.
Right.
We're all immigrants. Even Native Americans migrated down through the Bering Strait 16,000 or so years ago. So we're a nation of immigrants. And secondly, we are 99.9% identical genetically, so that we're brothers and sisters. The third reason I think our series is so popular is because we live in such an unsettled and unsettling time. And people are looking for stability because of the wonders of DNA analysis and the revolution in genealogy created by digitization. I think people are turning for stability into themselves, meaning, who did I come from? Who am I? Who is back there? And as you well know, you are a walking family tree because you literally carry DNA from ancestors going back almost 200 years.
We actually are the record now. You know, it used to be you look up in books, you look for documents, but now we are the record, which is just amazing to me.
It is amazing. It's a kind of ancestral immortality that is passed along through your descendants. And you know, the metaphor I use is that our ancestors are in a kind of suspended animation.
Right.
And they have a story to tell. And they can only tell the story if you find them. And when you find them, you release them from this state of suspended animation.
I love that.
Tell their story. Isn't it? But it's true.
You're absolutely right. And season 6 of Finding Your Roots is now on PBS. And what is it? A total of 16 episodes? That's incredible.
Yeah, up from 10. We're the second most popular series on PBS after Antique Roadshow.
Yeah. And you got Gail King on this year, Eric Stonestreet, Jeff Goldblum, Sigourney Weaver, Melissa McCarthy, Queen Latifah. Love her. And what a great list.
And Nancy Pelosi.
Madam Speaker.
Yeah, and I called her that throughout the whole interview. Last week, literally, there's a shuttle every hour from Boston to Washington. So I was going down to do a fireside chat with Robert Smith. Robert Smith is the great philanthropist who forgave the loan to the graduating seniors at Morehouse College.
Yes.
Earlier in the summer. And I was standing in line about to board the flight, and I looked up, and there was Mitt Romney. And I said, Senator, how are you doing? And fine. And we were talking about genealogy in Utah and how much I love going to the Family History Library. And then I said, look, we did Senator John McCain, we did Marco Rubio, we did Congressman John Lewis, Senator Cory Booker, Tulsi Gabbard. I said, how about you? And he said, deal.
Wow. Well, that'll be fun for a lot of people to see that. Good get.
Yeah. People ask me, how do you get guests? Well, that's one way. When I run into them, I just ask them.
All right. We need to take a break because I want to come back, Dr. Gates, and talk about your program called The Seedlings, dealing with training young people into genealogy. And we'll get to that coming up in 5 minutes on Extreme Genes, America's Family History Show.
Looking for an easy way to show off your family history and share it with your family? Family Chartmasters offers beautiful custom pedigree art pieces and inexpensive family reunion draft charts in any design or size that fits your needs. With a free consultation at FamilyChartmasters.com, you can get started creating a new family masterpiece. Family Chartmasters has over 11 years of experience in creating and printing family charts. They can print any style genealogy chart from any genealogy file and can create exactly what you're looking for. You'll work with a specialized and talented consultant whose goal is to make you happy. Decorative charts make fantastic gifts for all occasions. And with Family Chartmasters' option of ordering duplicate charts at half price along with your original purchase at full price, you can afford to give a family heirloom to each member of your family. Contact Family Chartmasters today at FamilyChartmasters.com for your free consultation. Family Chartmasters will give the greatest care to your family history. Scientific studies have proven that youth who know even a little bit about their family history perform better academically and have a greater sense of personal confidence and stability. Genealogy is its own incredible superpower that arms our children with super strength. But how do you get your child or grandchild interested in studying their family history? That kind of stuff is just for grandmas, right? Not anymore. ZapTheGrandmaGap.com leaps the generation gap in a single bound. Author Janet Havorka provides you with useful and timely advice on helping the young people in your life become engaged in their own family history. Janet has an entire collection of books to inspire the young and the young at heart in fun, interactive ways. She also offers creative tips and advice on her blog and in her free weekly newsletter. Stop by ZapTheGrandmaGap.com today to sign up for Janet's free email newsletter with 52 weeks of easy tips, free downloads, and order your set of resource books and workbooks.
All right, we are back on Extreme Genes, America's Family History Show, and ExtremeGenes.com. It is Fisher here with my special guest, Dr. Henry Louis Gates, the tour guide to Family Histories of the Stars, with Season 6 right now, Finding Your Roots on PBS. And Dr. Gates, I had to talk to you about this show called The Seedlings, because I know there are so many people who have not heard about it. And frankly, more important to me than the show itself is the concept of what you have started in training young people in genealogy, in genetics. I mean, I'm looking at all the basics of this course you've set up at Penn State.
Yep. I'll tell you where it started. I read a survey in the Washington Post. They had interviewed black inner-city middle school children, and it said, list things white, quote unquote. And on that list was speaking standard English, getting straight A's in school, and visiting the Smithsonian. Now, if anyone had said anything that ridiculous when I was growing up, your mother would have smacked you.
Yeah.
They would have called the doctor. You know, there's something wrong with you. Because the traditional black values, one of the most important was in education. That the way to fight back against racism, white supremacy, hatred, was through being educated. So this was a black value, and somehow that was lost for some members of our community. So I was thinking, how can we reignite interest of inner-city brown and black kids? This is how I started the idea. And I thought, well, we'll go to the social studies teacher, 8th grade social studies teacher. And the lesson today, it'll be a 6-week unit, will be tracing your family tree. That will show them how to go home and interview their mother, their father, their grandparents, come back with that research, and then we'll take them online and take them back to the 1940 census, which, of course, is the most recent census online. And then we'll let them trace their ancestry back, in the case of black kids, to 1870. And you understand that was the first census following the Civil War, when all black people were listed in the census. Because in 1860, 90% of the black community was enslaved. And if you were a slave, they did not list you by name in the census. But at 10% of our ancestors were free, and they would be listed in the census. So anyway, we take it back to the 1870 census. And then if your ancestor's name was, well, in the case of Oprah, we found her great-great-grandfather was called Constantine Winfrey. And he was living next door in Ottawa County, Mississippi, to a white man named Absalom Winfrey. And let's say he was 33 years old. So we go back to the 1860 census and find Absalom Winfrey, a white man, and we look at the slave schedule, and he owned a black man who was 23 in 1860. Well, you don't have to be Sherlock Holmes to figure out that most probably that was Constantine Winfrey.
Of course.
And so they build their family tree in the social studies class. They had to learn about history. They learn about archival research, technology, digitization, using computers, all in one highly motivated lesson plan, dependent upon them finding more about themselves. Because what's your favorite subject? Everyone's favorite subject is yourself.
Is me.
And it's a foolproof method.
Yes.
Yeah. Nobody is going to say, no, I don't want to know more about myself.
Did you have any concerns from the parents that something secret might be revealed through all this, some of them opting out?
Well, you have to get permission of the parents, because part 2 of the lesson plan is that then we go down the hall from the social studies teacher to the science teacher. And then we have everyone test their DNA, and they spit in the test tube. And while they wait on the results, we teach them about Watson and Crick and the double helix and Y DNA, mitochondrial DNA, how it all works. And then when they get the results back, they get their own website, as you know, from one of the major DNA companies, and then they can find out their admixture, their percentages of sub-Saharan and European and Asian and Native American and 50 other subcategories, and they can be connected to their DNA cousins, people with whom they share long identical segments of DNA, that some of which will probably at this point be their mother and their father, their brother and sister or cousin, but also people that they don't know. But you're absolutely right. You have to get the permission of the parent. Because I did this for Chris Rock's wife. She had an after-school program, and she asked me to test everyone's DNA, which I did with Cece. Cece interpreted the results, and then I gave them all certificates about their African origin. But there was one woman among the parents who refused. And we were very careful not to make that child feel bad or different. And there was no question that came up about paternity or anything like that.
Right.
And we didn't even ask her why. It was just her right to do it. Now, of course, I realized that maybe it was for religious reasons, but maybe it was because of paternity.
Sure.
And I've had incredibly famous people who have told me they want to be in the series, but their parents say, you could not be in this series.
And you kind of get a hint at why that might be.
Yeah. And often they don't know. They go, maybe you'll talk about parents. So they think there's something embarrassing. And then I go, yeah, there's something really embarrassing, probably.
Yes. Well, and that's the thing. There are no more secrets really anymore. And ultimately, as we know,
no more secrets.
And as Cece Moore is proving over and over again with her cold case work, I mean, you don't even need to know the identity of the person in the kit. You can figure out who they are. And so kids like this who come along, they're going to find out eventually in all likelihood.
They will find out eventually. So, I was going around the country giving lectures about the origins of finding your roots. And at the end, I would talk about my genealogy and genetics curriculum that I was hoping to get money from. And the former president of the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation happened to be in an audience, and she said, that idea is brilliant. Write me a proposal. And I think she gave us $700,000. And then I made a phone call to the president of the Rockefeller Foundation. We raised about $1 million. And by this time, I had given the lecture in front of a brilliant genetic anthropologist, an expert on the origins of skin color, among other things, and her name is Nina Jablonski. And she's professor of anthropology at Penn State University. And she's a genius, just a genius. And she said, let's partner. And so, you needed a whole team to run summer camps as an experiment. And she agreed to do that. And she and her colleagues, we brought a brilliant Ethiopian professor from Brown University to come down and work for the summer, and then they recruited students from different parts of the country. I came down to lecture and meet them, and we did it for 2 summers, but again, Nina did all of the implementation. And the PBS station at Penn State filmed this. It's a web series. You could go online. It's called Finding Your Roots, The Seedlings. And just on Saturday, September 28th, we won our 3rd Mid-Atlantic Emmy for episodes of Finding Your Roots, The Seedlings.
And my hope is that this program, this concept, becomes commonplace in junior high schools and high schools throughout the country.
Everywhere. I want it to be part of the curriculum everywhere because it will revolutionize a student's attitude towards science and toward history.
And towards race and culture and each other and themselves.
Everything. And toward the unity of the human community.
Yes, I love it.
That's my goal. And the lesson plans are there online right now for free. Finding Your Roots, The Seedlings. You could go to the Finding Your Roots website and there's a link, or you could find it independently, but it's all there for free.
I love it. He's Dr. Henry Louis Gates. He is the tour guide to Family Histories of the Stars, of course, with Finding Your Roots on PBS now in Season 6. Dr. Gates, an honor to have you on, and we look forward to having you back on Extreme Genes in the not-too-distant future.
Listen, you could call and wake me up, and I'd do an interview anytime.
I appreciate it, Doctor. Take care.
Thank you, brother. Take care.
And coming up next, we're going to catch up with Team Blue, Anitra and Paul from BYU TV's Relative Race on Extreme Genes. Jeannie's, it is Fisher here, and I've got a favor to ask you. Would you check out the website for a brand new client of ours? It's called Memory Web, and I met the people behind that just a couple of years ago at a conference and was blown away by what this photo organizer can do for you. You can share photos with tag details visible on your photo, or you can send photos with all the details inside the file as metadata. You can share with Aunt Betsy so she can identify people in the reunion photo from the 1940s without changing your tags. I mean, it's an incredible product, and I really want you to check it out. Go to memoryweb.me/extremegenes, or you can click on the link on our website, extremegenes.com, or through our weekly Genie newsletter. This is the way to bring your digital archives alive. People's jaws were dropping when they were learning about it at Roots Tech. Get 10% off an annual subscription when you sign up at memoryweb.me/extremegenes.
Have you hit a brick wall in your family tree? Are you unsure how to use your DNA test results to resolve a research question? Do you want to travel where your ancestors walked and need to find details before you go? Need help joining a lineage society? Whatever your genealogy research question, the answer is Legacy Tree Genealogist. Legacy Tree Genealogist has been helping clients all over the globe discover their story since 2004. Legacy Tree has carefully selected and trained professionals who specialize in hundreds of countries and languages, as well as probate research and DNA analysis. And when you need experts on the ground in the countries where your ancestors came from, Legacy Tree Genealogist calls upon its global network of on-site researchers who know the local language and how to get their hands on the records you need. Legacy Tree Genealogist is the world's highest client-rated genealogy research firm and is recommended by genealogy industry leaders worldwide, including MyHeritage, 23andMe, and more. Request your free quote today at legacytree.com. That's legacytree.com.
Hey, Genies, it is Fisher, and episode 2 of season 6 of BYU TV's Relative Race is now available for you to stream. You can do it at byutv.org or by using the BYU TV app. I mean, there are so many ways you can see it. You can practically watch it on your toaster. This past week, it was another emotional episode as one of the team members discovered that the birth mother he's been seeking his entire life passed away some 20 years ago, and taking answers with her as to why she gave him up. Of course, there were the lighthearted moments as well, with this past week's challenge, Medieval Mayhem, catapulting balls at towers and knocking down flags as the teams raced off to meet their relatives for the first time, many of whom have valuable family information to share. Catch episode 3 coming up Sunday night on BYU TV, 8 o'clock Eastern, 5 o'clock Pacific. It's BYU TV's Relative Race. If you enjoy family history, you're going to love this show. It was made just for us. And welcome back. It is America's Family History Show, Extreme Genes and extremegenes.com. Well, as we all know by now, BYU TV's Relative Race is back Sunday nights at 8 Eastern, 5 o'clock Pacific. And I'm very excited to talk to Team Blue, Anitra and Paul. They are on the line right now. Where are you guys located, Anitra?
We are in Wilmington, North Carolina.
All right. And I was just seeing in the last episode you were sent to Salem, Virginia. And I'm just thinking, what an adventure that you guys were sent on. And for people not familiar with the show, basically people apply to be on it. They do DNA tests. A research team goes out and finds relatives. And they basically take cars to different places all over the country. They have to hit a certain time. They're competing for $50,000. But the most important thing at the end of the day is you're getting answers to questions you've wondered about all your life. And in this particular season, somebody on every team on the show, on all 4 teams, is looking for birth parents. And Anitra, you are no exception to that. And this was quite a visit you had with your cousin LaShonda. How did you feel as she revealed to you that your grandmother wanted to keep you before you were ultimately given up for adoption?
Well, it was actually something that was nice to know, because for so long I'd wondered why I was given up and my sister was kept in the family. And I didn't know anything about whether people tried to look for me or if my family knew anything about me. So it was nice to hear from her that her grandmother and my great aunt actually did try to find me and did want to raise me in the house with my cousin LaShonda.
And so did that bring you some peace?
It really did. In my early 20s, I carried around a lot of, well, am I good enough? Can I do this? Because I had the weight of not knowing whether I was really wanted by my birth family. So to find out that I did bring a lot of peace and a lot of closure to that part.
And you were a community college teacher, and you found out your grandmother was a teacher as well.
Yes. And that was the coolest one of the cooler discoveries of that particular episode, because teaching apparently runs in my blood. So.
Wow. And Paul, as the partner in this whole thing, and of course you're having your experiences as well, how did you feel about this, watching your beautiful wife go through this experience of learning about this incredible past?
It was kind of one of those things where, like, I know her and I know sort of the struggles that she's had. And getting that information, I know what that's going to do for her. And I was just elated to see that she was indeed wanted, and they did make an effort to try to keep her into the family. That was huge.
So since the show, I got to ask you, what's the relationship been like now that you're back in touch with your birth family?
This has been really a time of building with everyone, of getting to know everyone, of allowing everyone to get to know me and my family. So it's been wonderful, really.
So are you getting recognized in the malls now when you go around town, Anitra and Paul?
Everybody already knows her anyway from teaching down at the community college. Everywhere we go, she always has this little joke. She's like, "Oh, those are my people. I'm a celebrity." And it's really funny.
Well, I bet you it's a lot of fun. And, for those kids, though, they get to know you as a person and not just as a professor, Anitra. And I wanted to give you a hug myself, just like your cousin was doing for you, going, "Oh, hug her. Oh, my gosh, that's incredible."
Oh, and actually, Scott, if we can, we actually like everyone to tune into our Relative Race podcast. It's called After the Race Podcast, and it's available on many, many platforms. We're on Instagram and on Facebook, so follow us, tune into the episodes. It's a continuation of the conversation of engagement with our fans.
Sounds like a great one. I'm looking forward to listening to it. Thanks so much, Anitra and Paul.
No problem.
Thank
you.
And coming up next, David is back for Ask Us Anything.
Looking for an easy way to show off your family history and share it with your family? Family Chartmasters offers beautiful custom pedigree art pieces and inexpensive family reunion draft charts in any design or size that fits your needs. With a free consultation at FamilyChartmasters.com, you can get started creating a new family masterpiece. Family Chartmasters has over 11 years of experience in creating and printing family charts. They can print any style genealogy chart from any genealogy file and can create exactly what you're looking for. You'll work with a specialized and talented consultant whose goal is to make you happy. Decorative charts make fantastic gifts for all occasions. And with Family Chartmasters' option of ordering duplicate charts at half price along with your original purchase at full price, you can afford to give a family heirloom to each member of your family. Contact Family Chartmasters today at FamilyChartmasters.com for your free consultation. Family Chartmasters will give the greatest care to your family history.
When was the last time you heard your grandmother's voice or saw your family enjoying life back in the 1950s or 60s? If the reason is you haven't known what to do with your old recordings, videos, and films, here's your answer. The Multimedia Center in Salt Lake City.
We brought in a video project to the Multimedia Center, and overnight they duplicated it to DVD so we could meet our deadline.
The Multimedia Center, 2870 East, 3300 South, Salt Lake City. Open Monday through Friday, 10 to 6. Call 801-483-1717 or go to transferduplication.com.
Genies, it's Fisher with exciting news. The Weekly Genie, the official newsletter of Extreme Genes, is here. It's your Monday morning briefing on what's happening in the world of genealogy and family history and on Extreme Genes. Get all the details of jaw-dropping stories of discovery and keep up with the latest techniques in family history research. Get to know more about your favorite Extreme Genes personalities. And it's free. Sign up for the Weekly Genie now at extremegenes.com or the Extreme Genes Facebook page. And when you do, you'll receive David Allen Lambert's top 10 tips for beginning genealogists from the chief genealogist of the New England Historic Genealogical Society. Sign up today for the Weekly Genie. All right, back at it, and it is time for Ask Us Anything on Extreme Genes, America's Family History Show. Fisher here, back with David Allen Lambert, the chief genealogist of the New England Historic Genealogical Society and AmericanAncestors.org. And this is a section each week where we answer your questions, and we've got one here, David, from Mary C. in Phoenix, and she said, "Hi, I happened to hear your radio show here in Phoenix one Saturday, and because I was beginning to do some research and fill out my family tree, I started listening to the podcast. Now I am hooked, and I listen every week. So here's my question. Where can I find sites or opportunities to index historical records on a volunteer basis? I think it's fulfilling to help transcribe personal information that may help someone in their research while learning about and relating to history myself. Thanks, Mary C." That's awesome.
That's a pretty wonderful request to put out there, but I could say Family Search.
Yes, FamilySearch.org is run and operated by the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and people are constantly indexing records from all over the place, but you don't have to be a member of the church in order to participate. In fact, if you go to FamilySearch.org/indexing, you'll find over 100 projects right now from all over the world that you can help index.
And, and it's not just Family Search. Here at American Ancestors, we have the Roman Catholic Archdiocese Project for the greater Boston area, and volunteers have helped us do that. And other societies out there also have volunteering from the local level to the large.coms.
Yeah, that's right. There are actually organizations everywhere, and I'm sure, Mary, if you were to do just a Google search for indexing, you will find all kinds of places that would be more than happy to have you volunteer your time. And isn't it great, David, that now we can do this from pretty much anywhere, on our phones, sitting in a parking lot while somebody's in the grocery store, I mean, there's just so many things. And I'll tell you, I think we've all been the beneficiaries of people's indexing, and we don't even know it. We just take it for granted now because these records show up and we go, oh, look at this, I found this person. Well, you would not have found that person if some other person hadn't kindly donated their time to indexing certain record sets, and it's still going on every day, and I don't know that it's ever going to stop.
It's amazing, isn't it? And like I say, technology has made it so. I remember years ago when you did indexing, they sent you a pile of papers.
Yes.
And you indexed it on a CD and sent it back. But now just do it from home in your pajamas.
I actually did it before DVDs at that time. We would get a pile of papers and little cards, and one person would do it on cards and send it in to somebody who would oversee the project, and then another person would do the same thing, and then the overseer would go through and match up the cards to make sure that they were identical. Because if somebody read one as somewhat different from the other person, then the overseer of the project would go back to the original record and try to determine who got it right, if either of them did, because sometimes the handwriting was really kind of complicated. And I had that role for many years working on projects.
And that's why we both wear glasses today.
Yeah. You are absolutely right. So that's a great question, and thanks so much, Mary, for offering your volunteer time for this, because we do all benefit from it, and it's a great way to give back to all the people who have given us all that we have now so that we can so much more easily find our ancestors. Hey, if you have a question for Ask Us Anything, it's really easy to ask that question. Just email us at askusanything@extremegenes.com. David, have a great week. Talk to you again soon.
Talk to you soon, my friend.
Well, that is a wrap on this week's show, and I hope you enjoyed it. Dr. Henry Louis Gates for 2 segments. We talked to Team Blue from Relative Race on BYU TV, and we had a lot of good stuff here. And if you missed any of it or you want to catch it again, you can always listen to the podcast. It's available through iTunes, iHeartRadio, ExtremeGenes.com, and wherever great podcasts are heard. And if you want to keep in touch with us throughout the week, you can join our Facebook group, sign up for our weekly Genie newsletter, become a patron of the show with our Patron Club through Patreon.com. Talk to you again next week, and remember, as far as everyone knows, we're a nice, normal family.